Thank you very much. I think that this very short video shows what happened over the last week. I'll give the floor to my colleagues according to the list that I have, just for 5 minutes each, maximum. Dr. Amr Shopki. We have a statement from the Secretary of the Syndicate of Actors and Actresses in Egypt. We would like to put it as an annex in our statement. Thank you very much. We thank all of you. Once again, I thank Minister of Culture for this invitation, for this initiative, and it is a great pleasure to be among all of you, the writers of Egypt, the actors, the journalists of Egypt. And within the time frame, I'll be talking about just one point, which could have links to politics. We are talking about challenges that the culture, the art, the creation have faced over the last period. But we have just a message. This message is for all those monitors and watchers in other countries, other societies, especially the Western media. It seems that some Western countries think that the problem is a problem between political forces. We know that there is any kind of eternal political system, and we know that after 25th of January we'll have president for 20 or for 30 years, and we will not allow anybody to confiscate power for him, authority for himself. The struggle we have is not the traditional struggle that have been in Spain or in east of Europe or South America. They know very well the experiences of these countries. In all these countries, the state had not fallen. The army had not been dismantled. All these countries could have a transitional period throughout what we call institutional reforms, how to reform the institution to be part of democratic system. But what we have seen with Mr. Morsi had nothing to do with the reform. It was just to empower the Muslim Brotherhood group to be at the top of the authority. All these challenges which have not been in Eastern Europe. I remember when I've been in France for the first time, 1989, that the East of Europe was the newly born baby for the Western countries, and that's why the eastern part of Europe at that time was very was adopted by the Western countries. But when we come to Iraq, we have what we call the failed state, because we are talking about a country which was completely dismantled. And after the death of 1 million Iraqis as a direct result of the occupation of the Americans, Libya, which is a country beside us, it has just 5 million, which is the third part of the total population of Cairo. But the Cairo failed. But we know that during Gaddafi period, they were not an army, as the terms says, is completely different. And they have a lot of problem, and they have we have the other example which is happening in Syria, and that's why today we are here and we have huge, enormous degree of solidarity, in spite of having different backgrounds, different type of culture. But we will not allow the Egypt to be like Iraq. We are not ready to destroy what we call in politics our national army, or the army of the state. This is the army of the state. It's not the army of the system. It's the case of is not the case of Bashar al-Assad and the Syrian army, but here in Egypt we have complied very well the definition of a national army, and we know a lot of countries who are paying a lot of victims to have an army. So the war made by the Muslim Brotherhood is targeting to dismantle this state. And all before yesterday, the 38, 37 killed of Muslim Brotherhood, I was saying that the following day we would have a disaster. So I like just to see everything, that every disaster in Egypt, any kind of escalation, it comes usually before a visit of an American official or a meeting made by the EU countries. This is kind of message to the Western countries. So this is a real plan to impose a model which is not prevailing in the all experiences of change based on the international intervention. So the problem is not conflict with a political force. It is not the collapse of a political system, or because that we have different political views. But in 2013, it's like the EU countries, like American, with other transition periods in different countries. In Latin America, all Latin America, we haven't seen any dismantled armies. The same case in Russia, same case in eastern part of Europe. We haven't seen this experience to have a divided army like Syria. So this experience should not be repeated here in Egypt. So the collapse of Muslim Brotherhood was a big hit to their plans. Concluding, at this moment, we are proud of our national state, our national army. This state we established at 1805, and this is one of the most distinctive point and advantage of the Egyptian state, and that's why we will always against any kind of projects or caliphate projects or any group. Come to conclusion. What happened in Egypt? Just listen to me, all of you in Europe and United States. This is the first time in history of any country to have an association or a group which couldn't have a license to have a political party, and they became, after the revolution, a political party, and they came to power. And they didn't like to dismantle the group, the organization. So our country was ruled long one across 1 year by a secret organization, and that our ousted president had a president and had a boss and had a guide and leaders above him. And even in Tunisia, the case is different. They change it. They change it, the situation. They don't have this secret group called Muslim Brotherhood like here in Egypt. Here we had a secret organization ruling Egypt. And for all that, all the Egyptians, millions, millions and millions of Egyptians took to the streets on 30 of June. I believe that all these scenes we should study carefully, and we can base our future on these basis, on this concept. We will defend the democratic system and our national state. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Amr Shobaki. You clarify a lot of, you clarified different points within this complicated scene. And now the floor is to our great poet, Ahmed Abmat Hikazi. Please. Just Mr. The great poet Ahmed Abmat Hikazi is coming to take the floor. First of all, please, quiet, please, quiet, please. Please. First of all, I would like to welcome on behalf of all the Egyptian intellectuals, writers. I'm welcoming all of you, especially the diplomatics, foreign diplomatics, and the diplomatic intellectuals, and in addition to our colleagues, reporters, etc., coming from different TV channels. I would like, first of all, to talk about the first question, which was answered by the Minister of Culture, the relation between politics and culture. This is very important. This topic is very important. This danger that we are facing at the moment, represented in this fascist group, terroristic group, from which Egyptian intellectuals and writers and actors suffered over the last few months. Not now, but since it appeared, since it was established 85 years ago, 84 years ago. It was established in 1928. I'm not going to talk about history, but I'll point out to the assassination operations by this group, like, for example, the famous intellectual Farag Fouda, and the attempt to assassinate Naguib Mahfouz, and the Nasr Hamid Abu Zaid, one of the university professors who was sent to exile during the 90s, and a lot of actors and writers have been sent to the court, and their charge was all with that they offended religion and the faith of Egyptians. Before anything, we would like to defend the Egyptian culture. This threatened Egyptian culture because this group cannot, and it cannot accept the right of writing, right of thinking, right of creation. It does not know what is democracy, and it's shocking that these we have some intellectuals and some writers who are defending this group, like, for example, this very small and humble Gulf state defending democracy. This Qatar, I'm talking about Qatar, we know that how people, how their intellectual, how their writers are suffering, and how the journalism is suffering in Qatar. But Qatar now pretends to be a protector of the democracy in Egypt. This is very surprising. And I'm very surprised when the Western countries, which defended and protected all of this secularism and separated religion from the state during Renaissance and during the Enlightenment age, this decisive separation between the state and religion. Excuse me, I cannot hear the conference. Excuse me, I stopped the translation because I cannot hear the conference.